Hello, welcome back to episode 51 of the Top Loaded podcast. And it's more of a return to normality this week. We're going to be talking about the hobby with releases coming this week, stuff that we're very happy to have finally been released, and just generic grading, buying, selling, and everything else. So, bit of a return to normality after the card shows. But, Harry, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I feel a little bit more relaxed now. I've had a bit more sleep and a bit of respite after the show last weekend. But yeah, no, not doing too badly. Thanks, Ron, mate.
Yeah, like I say, it's normality is kind of resuming. Obviously, the new dates have been revealed and the countdown's already on. It's less than 3 months. It's a shorter turnaround time. Obviously, we look forward to April now, which is going to be a good one. But we thought this week we'll have a normal episode where we just talk about everything what's going on in the hobby. And I think there's only one place to start, and that is there's actually some well, as of we're recording it, there are meant to be some things coming out. So obviously with Panini, it's all subject to change. Don Russell's already been pushed back a month, so it's ready this week. And obviously Premier League Prizm, which is always a fun release. So starting with Don Russ, because obviously both of us be very intrigued to see Premier League Prizm. But obviously we're awaiting the checklist still of this. And then when obviously it's revealed, we'll talk through it a lot more. But Don Russ returning to the original idea of clubs and nations. I quite like that, don't you? I've seen like the tester images, and I've got Real Madrid obviously having Vinicius in his Real Madrid. It's nice to have a bit more of a variety rather than just the nations.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the Domos inserts are some of the nicest ones. Kaboom being the standout. But yeah, I think to revert back to the sort of the OG way, I think they've done that a lot better. It gives a lot wider variety of sort of nation kits and obviously team kits. But no, yes, it's definitely a wise move, I think, to go back to the original way where so they're going to have both in the set. And I said there's some of the real standout inserts in there that people hunt for, especially Kaboom. So yeah, I think everyone's going to be long awaiting the checklist to see who's getting a Kaboom, who's getting a zero gravity, who's going to get what sort of inserts, what sort of autos people are going to have. So yeah, hopefully they don't keep us hanging on a thread for too long with the checklist, and we can sort of get straight into it.
Yeah, as we always say, we always look forward to a checklist. I remember before the World Cup Prizm was launched, you're always trying to anticipate which is going to happen, and obviously they always throw some curve. Well, some of them you can always work out roughly what they're going to do. But it's a case of what Arsenal players make the checklist. Obviously, we know Real Madrid is one of the nations. I don't expect any Premier League teams to be in it, but who knows? So you expect the Englands to obviously be in there, France, Germany, Spain. Nations, like in the past when they used to, it was quite interesting. The nations they had a clubs they picked. Had some right random ones in there, which is kind of cool, and just see what new players are in it as well. Like, I think obviously a lot of people are looking at the Kabooms thinking, yeah, Saka Kaboom would be really nice, but then again, would it be nice on the bank account? Probably not. But
No.
I think the Kaboom, like you say, it's one of my favourite inserts, has been for quite a while. And it would be nice if it's not Saka, even one of the lesser nations of one of our players would be a really nice one. I'm thinking if Norway's in it, they've already done an Erling Haaland Kaboom.
Oh.
So the obvious replacement could be for that. It could be a Martin Odegaard Kaboom. But it's like you say, with your party one you got from World Cup Prizm, it's just a sensational card. I think everyone wants to get a national landmark, but it would be nice to get an Arsenal player in a newer Kaboom. Obviously, we've had Premier League Prizm in the past with Aubameyang, with Pepe, but it would be quite nice to see a nation one as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there with Erdegaard. There's a couple of sort of previews of the cards. Obviously, Haaland's obviously has an auto from the beautiful game, so it would be a massive W if Erdegaard was to come out with a Kaboom from Donruss. But yeah, I think we saw Harry Kane get the national landmarks obviously for England in Prizm in the World Cup. So yeah, I think it'd be nice to see a different. It's one of them ones we can anticipate what we want. You could say, yeah, there might be a Foden Kaboom, there might be a Saka Kaboom, there might be for all we know like a Maguire Kaboom
I'm
from
going
what.
to stick it out there. Jude Bellingham Kaboom.
It's one of them. It's one of them. I think no matter what, you could name 8 out of the start 11 in the England team, and all of them are going to be at least probably £800 plus in a Kaboom. So, yeah, I think it'd be really nice to get a really nice nation Kaboom for England or for any other nationality from an Arsenal player from obviously a biased point of view. But no, yeah, I think, I'm looking forward to seeing the checklist, and, hopefully it does get released within the next coming days. Obviously, as the time recording this, maybe it might have already been released by the time this comes out. So, but no, yeah, I think, it'd be an absolute touch if Verdigard come out with a Kaboom, or, Saka or someone like that, just to please all the Arsenal fans. But yeah, I mean, you say there Bellingham Kaboom. I mean, that would just be unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like I say, I think as well, one thing goes under the radar a lot with Don Russ is the parallels are actually very nice for the set. All the way, obviously, they normally do the lasers and the optics. And I know a few people who do collect them, and I've seen a lot of the card shows that some, especially the lower print velocities, the golds, the blacks, especially to 25 oranges, they're just a really nice card to look at. And some of them do go really cheap because obviously the players that they are, because obviously everyone's chasing the big guys, but there's some really cheap ones out there. And I think actually aesthetically, I think Don Ross could be up there, one of the nicest looking sets, especially for the parallels. There's some parallels that are high up, which are non-numbered. I know, like the red, for example, some of the red velocity is unnumbered. So that's just a great looking card, especially when it is slabbed up. And there's no doubt that there's going to be some very good looking cards in this set.
Yeah, definitely. I think, even with like net marvels being brought back into Donruss as well, you saw how popular they were, from the previous and the Road to Qatar set. With Erling Haaland getting a marvel, and it's that sort of like cartoony sort of, similarity to on a trading card. So, I just said some of the inserts, some of the numbered cards are really, really nice. Also, you've got the base parallels and the optic parallels. The black to 1 zero gravity kaboom. But no, yeah, I think, I just said some of the really nice parallels aren't even numbered. I just said you get them slabbed up, or, there are probably a shorter print of trying to sort of figure out the print runs on some of the non-numbered cards to see whether they are a short print or not. But no, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Don Russ released and the checklist being released. And yeah, hopefully we can see some absolute bangers pulled in within the first sort of release week, and we can get talking about them on here.
Definitely. And I think moving on to the next big product, which is definitely a massive one in generic, just for brilliant cards. A lot of people have got at least one of these cards in their PC, obviously Premier League Prizm. Last year, I think it's fair to say that it didn't go down that well. Still, there were some lovely cards. We're not denying there weren't some lovely cards, but in general, it wasn't the highest. They weren't really selling that well. I've seen quite a lot of breaks recently that are not selling out. Obviously, now the anticipation's moved on to this one. They've revealed like the print runs and all that, which is very similar to the World Cup, just slightly less. But like I say, I actually personally believe that the base design this year is better than the last year's one. I weren't a massive fan of last year's one. Still have bought cards from it, but I've got I think the actual base this year, the actual base design is a lot better.
Yeah, I think, base cards are one of those where you end up with hundreds of them when you enter breaks, or when you're breaking yourself, and you end up with 100 and thousands worth of base cards. But I agree with you. I think the base design on the new Prizm set does look really clean. It's got that sort of like boxy feel. The corners are quite sharp. It's got that sort of square look to it. But I agree. I think it does look a lot cleaner. I think the parallels, as a result, look a lot nicer as well. The black 1 of 1 would look, absolutely incredible. So, but no, yeah, I think, the base design does look a lot smarter, does look a lot cleaner. Especially on some of that, Darwin Núñez, for example, being his first proper Prizm Liverpool card. It will look really nice. And then base cards, they always start off at quite a high price point. And I remember Saka's first ever Arsenal Prizm card, back in 2019, I think it was. It was going for like 50, 60 quid when it first got released. So, you'll see a couple of big names, hopefully, during the checklist. Like for us, Saliba, potentially his first Arsenal base card in Prizm. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, again, the checklist for that, so we can properly assess it and see, what's going to be some big hitters or not. The only real question I've got really is around this new insert called Groovy. It seems like, without pardon the pun, it seems a bit of a groovy design. Like it's very, very random. It's almost like I don't know how to describe it. It's very like flowers and sort of
Very
all
like
this sort of,
like 60s.
yeah, very much like 60s, 70s sort of vibe. So I'm interested to see how they do, because one of them ones where Is it going to start off at a really high price point? Is it going to be a case hit? Is it going to be a random insert like Marvels was in Donruss? So I'm interested to see how that pans out. But I think I'm most, as always, looking forward to the Color Blast being back in Prizm. I always prefer the Prizm Color Blast to Obsidian. I think the whiter background does look a lot smarter. But yeah, hopefully, it should be a second good release, as we say, next week as planned, if all goes ahead.
Yeah, like I say, you just touched on it there. Obviously, the big thing that everyone looks at when the checklist does come out for Prizm is the rookie class. And obviously, at this moment, we can only make assumptions of who's going to be in it. But obviously, there's some big chases. The one that sprung to my mind straight away was some like Garnacho for Man United. His cards could be ridiculously priced. One of the other person I think could go on a bit under the radar is Notto from Leeds. I think he's an unbelievable player. And obviously, I can't remember seeing any of his cards at all, not even anything, not in general, nothing. So it could be his true first card, which would be unbelievable. Like you say, Saliba obviously had his rookie with the World Cup, so hopefully be yet again, but it's still be his first actual Arsenal Prizm. Obviously, there's quite a lot. Obviously, what everyone's got to remember is the January signings will not be in this. So, for example, Jorginho will still most likely be in a Chelsea kit, which would be great for his sales because Arsenal fans don't want him in a Chelsea shirt. And Chelsea fans probably still don't want him because he's in an Arsenal shirt now. But there's going to be some really big players. Obviously, Haaland, Prizm, that's going to do very, very, very well. But then for Man City as well, you got like Rico Lewis. If he makes the check, he might not make the checklist, but he's one of the rookies that springs to mind. Julian Alvarez as well. His Prizm could be very good. It's just working out now who they go with. Like, no doubt that Cristiano Ronaldo will be in it for Man United, but obviously now playing out in the Middle East, having fun over there. So it's going to be quite intriguing to see what players make the checklist, who doesn't. I mean, it's normally a 300 card base set, so it's about 15 players per team. So for me, I'm obviously hoping that my two boys make the checklist, and who knows. It's also seeing who's now live autos as well. I know that in Elite, which is coming out, obviously they've done La Liga, Serie A, French League, which is coming out soon, and Premier League. The actual French League, that Gabriel Auto, so he might make it for Arsenal. But I don't know if you do the same as me, but you obviously always go straight to Arsenal. But then you always have to have a look at like the colour blast, for example, because they're great. I know obviously we know Elise is it for Palace, and that is an incredible looking card. So what does your eye go to first? Is it straight to the Arsenal base cards, or do you go straight to like the case hits and see like the big boy cards?
I mean, as you scroll down the checklist, you'll see Arsenal are very near the top. So I always have a little scout through the Arsenal base checklist and just see who's actually made it into the checklist. But then, especially for Prizm, for me, it's always straight to Color Blast. I always want to see who's got a Color Blast from the different teams, what Arsenal players got a Color Blast. And I said I'm also interested to see, this kaleidoscope. Obviously, I know from the preview, Jesus has got a kaleidoscope, and again, it's just interesting to see what one's going to be like a case hit, what one's going to be just a general insert, what one's going to be, one per box, one per case, whatever. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's always straight away look at who's made the Arsenal checklist, and then more than likely go straight to the Color Blast and see who's made that list as well. So, but yeah, no, I'm interested to see. Hopefully, like you said, Gabriel and Shaq are in it for your sake. And I said, hopefully, we get a very nice Color Blast for Arsenal. So I know we've seen the likes of Lacazette. I think Aubameyang had one last time around as well. So I know Aubameyang had it in Color Blast, I think. Also, you've got Lacazette from Prizm. So yeah, hopefully we get maybe a nice Jesus or Nketiah Color Blast, something like that. But yeah, for me, it's always Arsenal, then straight to the Color Blast. I don't know about you, but
no, I always Control F, put Granite in. If he's not in it, I'll probably just turn off my laptop and give up hope of everything in life. But no, yeah, I always look at the base set first, and then, like I say, your eyes automatically drawn to autos as well. I think my first two are Color Blast and Arsenal autos. It's because there's 400,000. Every player near enough who's ever played for Arsenal somehow signed cards at the moment. So you never know who's actually going to be in it until you've done it. But I thought of this off the top of my head, and we're going to do a little prediction here for like the bigger teams in the Premier League of who we think the Color Blast is going to be. So it's going to be quite interesting because they normally do, on average, at the time of the release. Obviously, you look back now, like Lacazette, normally are one of the more prominent players within the team. So we're going to start with Arsenal and who our prediction is for Arsenal. And I'm going to put my prediction out there as Gabby Martinelli because they love a Martinelli case hit. Just simple. I was thinking Saka, like you said, I think Saka Aubameyang had Obsidian, and I think Saka's had two actually. I think he's had Obsidian and colour Prizm. Laka's had it. So pretty much most of them are not even at the club anymore. So Saka's already had it. So I'm like, who do they want to go? I was filtering between Odegaard and Martinelli, but I think Martinelli just to take because it's just that Brazilian fact they're young, like obviously come off the World Cup and everything like that. I'm going to go Martinelli for Arsenal.
For me, I'm swaying between like a couple. I think they could throw a massive spanner in the works and maybe go for someone like Zinchenko. I don't know why I've got that feeling, but I'm swaying between Zinchenko, Martinelli. I would love to see Nketiah. I would like, he's done my head in a bit the last couple of games. He's not really done much and missed absolute sitters. But for some reason, I have a feeling it's going to be someone like Nketiah or Zinchenko. I think you said Saka's already had one from Obsidian. He's also got one in Prizm. So I think Saka's more or less ruled out. I think by looks of the checklist, obviously, Jesus has a Kaleidoscope preview. So he could also be in Kaleidoscope. So if you're going Martinelli, I'll go Odegaard.
I was going to say, I'd love the outside shout, which I would absolutely love, would be Aaron Ramsdale. That would be a lovely.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows? And I was going to say, right, move on to Chelsea now, but we've got to remember who they didn't sign in January, which is pretty much half their lineup. Because I would have said Felix, but then I remember no, he was January.
I've got mine for Chelsea already, I think.
I was going to say Fernandez, then I remember he was January. So I'll let you go first on this because I'm going to have to try and work off now who I'm going to actually say who was actually at the club when they would have done the checklist.
Stand out for me straight away is Havertz. I think it could be a Havertz. Between two, I'd probably say Havertz or Sterling. But for me, I think I'm gonna firmly say Havertz for Chelsea.
I've got two names in my head, and I can't. Whatever one I don't say will be it, and it's between Reece James and Mason Mount.
Oh, Mason Mount's a good one as well.
So I was thinking, did I go for a defender? But then I was like, they normally do or on the side of.
There's always one keeper, isn't there? I'm pretty sure because I'm trying to think who it was last time.
I think Dubravka had one.
Dubravka, that was it. I wasn't say Jose Sarr, but it's Dubravka.
But I think I'm going to go Mason Mount for Chelsea. So now moving on to Liverpool. I think Mane and Salah. This is where our knowledge of the
Mane's had one.
I know Mane's had one, but Salah, I can't remember if he's had one or not. So I was thinking, would they go Salah? Because obviously, big name. But then I was thinking, and then my other one was Luis Diaz. Doesn't have many cards. So I'm going to go Diaz I think they want to be different. I'm going to say Diaz.
I want to say Jordan Henderson. I feel like captain. I feel like he's probably quite a common.
Lucas would love a Henderson colour blast. That's what.
I'm thinking it could be a Henderson. I think Salah's too obvious. They didn't sign Nunes. Maybe he was signed. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm going to go Jordan Henderson. I'm going to stick to my guns and go Jordan Henderson.
Actually, thinking of rookie chase, if they have, I'm going to butcher his name now, Banajic, their Spanish centre mid rookie to chase as well. That's just literally comes to the top of my mind as we're going through Liverpool. Moving on to Man City now. I know we've just said it can be too obvious, but I'm going to be obvious, and I can't.
I know what you're going to say as well.
I can't think of anyone else but Erling Haaland. Even though they could throw in Phil Foden, I'm going to say Erling Haaland because it's Erling Haaland.
I was going to say Phil Foden.
Oh, that's perfect. At least
it could be a Foden, or it could be like a Grealish or a Mar. Like we wouldn't do Mars, I don't think.
Half the Man City squad could legitimately.
Yeah.
In a way, I kind of hope it's João Cancelo just for a laugh, and he's already gone.
See, it could be like a Rodri, it could be a Gundogan, it could be a Bernardo Silva. Like you could literally name the whole 11. It could be any of them.
Yeah.
I think for the upcoming rookies, I'm going to go with Phil Foden. I think
I'm going to go Erling Haaland on that one. Obviously, moving on to Man United now. Obviously, you've got to remember. Obviously, Ronaldo will be in the checklist. But then I was thinking, like I say, I don't know if he's had one or not. but obviously he's in fine form at the moment, and would be perfect timing for Panini if they was to put him Marcus Rashford. I just think everything that he's played so well since the World Cup, at the World Cup, like he's done, it's more off the field as well that he's done that. I think that would do very well sales wise, but I think actually having someone who went through the Man U Academy as the colour blast could really do well. So I'm going to go with Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, I think for me, just by trying to think, it could either be potentially Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
And I did sway a little bit towards Casemiro. I don't know why, because I feel like, he's fairly experienced. I think, a big Casemiro card. Rashford would be the obvious bet, I think, for me, who would potentially get it from United. But I'm going to go with Bruno Fernandes.
And I was going to say the next big team in the Premier League, and really the last one of the big six, so Newcastle, which is going to be quite an intriguing one, I think, with Newcastle.
Big Dan Burn.
I think for me, I'm going to go Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's there's some things with Newcastle. There's a few players it could be. I'm going to say Bruno in midfield, bit of Brazilian flair and the colour blast. Right,
I think there's two for me that I think Newcastle could do. And I think it's between Almiron and Trippier.
Trippier's a good shout.
I think they could do a Trippier. Guimaraes is a big shout. I think Callum Wilson potentially, but I think for me it's
Alexander Isak as well. He was there in the summer.
Joe Willock.
They're like Isak's going to be a good one for them to chase as well. It's just going through the teams you actually realise, really good cards in this year's.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Trippier, I think, for Newcastle. Trippier.
And let's throw a few rogue ones in there because I'm going to have to go Brighton because they always, like we said, they always have big time players who will go for 180 million in a couple of years' time. And this is another one that there's a few, and there's an obvious one that I think we might be both thinking of, but we might not because someone might be thinking Moses Caicedo because of all the bids. But obviously, you've got Alexi McAllister, World Cup winner. Obviously, all these checklists are done prior to it. So I'm going to go McAllister. But I think there's a good 4 or 5 that could be a really nice colour blast for Brighton.
See, originally I'd gone Trossard. Obviously, he still would have been at Brighton at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the likes of Solly March, Mitoma. I know Mitoma is probably not going to be him because he's only really come into form the last sort of couple of.
Will he even be in the check? Like that'd be another great rookie to chase if he's in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think McAllister's probably going to be the wisest bid. I think you probably got a pretty solid one there. But I will go with Solly March.
Good shout.
I think Moses Caicedo is another good shout, but I just think the bids wouldn't have happened prior to obviously the checklist being made. So I think I'm going to go with. I don't know. It's not going to be Solly. It's going to be McAllister. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. So for argument's sake, I'll say Solly March.
But then they're saying that we say there's one keeper one, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see Sanchez. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's so hard to predict. And obviously we're not being biased at all, but we're both saying we really want Fulham to be tossing. I think that's a great.
Oh, I'd love a tossing one.
But if I had to guess, I'd probably say I'm not sure if Mitro's had one yet.
He's had a kaboom, isn't he?
That's right. I know if he has a colour blast, I could see. I think if my brain serves me right, I think they had a Tom Cairney colour blast before. And if that's so, I would be leaning towards Mitro. But Willian could be quite a cool one.
Yeah.
Or actually, Panini, being American, could be Antonio Robinson at left back.
Yeah.
That reminds me, it could be Pulisic for Chelsea.
Yeah.
There's got to be an American in there somewhere. They might throw Matt Turner in, but I don't think that one. But there's got to be an American in that 20, I would say.
I think it could be Mitro for Fulham. Probably either Mitro or Willian. Probably seen the two most obvious options. But I think Leeds could be another good one because you've got the likes of Jack Harrison, Bamford. I don't think it'll be Nonto. I think he might get a base card, but I don't know if it will be him as a colour blast. you know, I mean, I'd love to hear everyone's predictions in the comments or drop us a DM to see what your predictions are for each team. But I think, yeah, Leeds. I'm gonna go Jack Harrison, I think, for Leeds.
Oh, yeah, it's a tricky one. Well, Leeds. Then again, I could see them. I'm going to. It's one or two between Ilya and Melier because I think he's a great young goalkeeper. But part bias and the statement I just said about United States,
Oh no, yes.
Tyler Adams, little colour blast. I think that could be
Or Brendan Harrison.
Yeah, their checklist is actually very decent. Obviously, next year's Prizm it could be Weston McKennie, but for this one it could easily be Tyler Adams. I think.
Yeah.
Like I say, Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson could be a very good one for them. Could
I mean, they could be a big one for West Ham as well. You could look at Bowen, Rice, Smacker, I think Paqueta, like any of those for West Ham will be a big colour blast as well.
Yeah, let's say if Rice hasn't had one, I know he's had a kaboom. If he hasn't had one, it could easily.
Yeah. No, Antonio had the kaboom, didn't he?
I think Rice had not the last Prizm, like the
right. Okay.
First kaboom, 1920, I think it was. He had a
1920. Oh, I thought you said 1920. I was like, hang on, everyone, it's like 100 years ago, mate.
No, I think like if Rice hadn't had one, that is quite the option, like the obvious option.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, we as soon as, like, for example, we haven't read it anywhere. Maybe it don't look like stadiums and badges are returning again, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But like I say, as soon as the checklist is out, we'll definitely go in depth on it, especially for Prizm being such a big release. But like I say, we're really looking forward to these releases coming up. Hopefully they'll stay on time because no doubt we'll be after some of the cards in there. And it really, once that comes out, everyone can really do like what they want to get. Everyone always does it. I want this card, that card, and hopefully be able to achieve it. Obviously now Martinelli won't be rookie autos, even though he seems to be a rookie for about 5 seasons. Hopefully his prices will be a bit cheaper. Like I say, ESR, Saka now, they'll probably still get autos potentially. But you've got
Smith Rowe Colour Blast.
Yeah, there's so many we could be.
Yeah.
So, but moving on, and obviously we're talking about cards that we potentially want to get. Now we're going to talk about what card. We're going to do a little segment about grading, and just I personally think grading is in a very good position at the moment in terms of just generically across the world in terms of the prices are slowly coming down. The grading times are very good, especially SGC. You're looking at maximum 10 business days from receiving to being sent out, which is just ridiculous at the 20, I think it's a $20 mark, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
Obviously you can go for the express service, which is 5 business days, which is just mental, even more. Obviously PSA are getting a bit more, it seems a bit more efficient. Obviously still, you've got to give it 5-6 months on like the value tier, like from the UK, obviously send them out, send them back and everything like that. But for you personally, have you got a preference between SGC, PSA, BGS, CSG? Obviously, there's a load of different companies out there. Or does it depend on what the item you're sending really depends on where it goes?
Yeah, I think for me at the moment, it depends on what card/sticker it's going to be that I'm sending in. The real appeal for me also is SGC with the turnaround times. You're looking at, as you said, 10 business days, and by the time you send it to a grading company, and then it's back to you within what month and a half, 2 months max, maybe. PSA is obviously the obvious option in terms of a flip, in terms of adding value to the card, in terms of overall benefit. But for me, I think SGC is really up there for me. They're probably the top 2 that are clear, in my opinion. I've not really done too much with Beckett or CSG, but yeah, I think for me, PSA, if you've got the patience for it and you've got a big card that you want to get graded, or you want to add value to and keep the value on some cases, PSA is the wiser option. And I would say it every time, but for me, SGC is just at the moment unmatched in terms of their turnaround times. The slabs are really nice looking as well. Yeah, again, it all comes down to what you're sending in. For me, also, I know I sent in 2 Wenger stickers recently. For me, it was a no-brainer to go to SGC. I do think stickers look nicer with the black border. But at the moment, I know we were talking about it before we started recording. I'm debating. Obviously, I need to send in my Smith Rowe Mosaic Auto, obviously to match now the new Henri that I bought at London last weekend. And it's difficult because as much as I'd love it in a SGC slab, there's a massive bit of inside of me that's going, just needs to go to PSA. So as I said, it depends on what card you're looking to send in as to where it's going to go. But yeah, SGC for me are very, very up there with their turnaround times, and the lesser time you have to wait for the card to come back.
I agree with you there. I think, like you say, stickers, especially personally. Don't get me wrong. I've got a few stickers that are in PSA, and obviously PSA did announce their new slabs for stickers, which gets rid of the Newton rings, which is fantastic because a few of my ones, I've got a Gabriel Jesus True Rookie, and it haunts me to look at it with all the rings on it. So I do need to probably crack it at some point to get it re-slabbed. But SGC, I just love SGC at the moment. I have done for quite a while. I think they've always been the grading company I preferred. I just really like the black border and how it plays off on certain parallels. Especially for me, I know we were just talking about Premier League Prizm, but I have like the Lacazette Color Blast in the SGC. And I think it works so well. Obviously, it's nice the frosted bit on a PSA slab, but the black on the white of the Color Blast just makes it stand out so much more. So, like I say, I think it does really depend on the card, depending on where it goes. For example, for me, lucky enough, I pulled a Rafael Leao rookie ticket from Chronicles Team, so it's the red parallel. And raw, it's doing like $140, but then if he gets a PSA 10, it's doing like $450. So I'm like, that has to go PSA. So it's probably only going to do $3 to $350 if it's in an SGC 10. But then for stuff that I know that's never leaving my PC, for me, I always send them SGC. For me, I've got a few Xhakas that I want to get sent off, which will be in a video probably very soon. But it's like, for example, early like 2018 parallel World Cup stuff. Lower prints, I like to 25 from this year's World Cup. It's just stuff like that that I think actually generally do look good. And if it's from my PC and I don't really care about adding value to it, then I'm sending it SGC. But then, like you say, to get the most out of the card, it goes PSA, or in the very rare occasion, I might send it off to BGS. Like, for example, I have got it just behind me, but I've got two items that have to go off to BGS because they don't get graded anywhere else, which is a booklet and a sneak auto from NBA, which is 360 point or something along there. Yeah, 360 points. So it makes everything look really thin when it's next to it. So, but then I don't want one of them slabs that are about 30 foot wide.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's put me off with them at the moment. But yeah, like you say, I think for me, staying in the PC is going SGC. And if it needs to add value or it's of high value, PSA. Or I would actually probably say anything vintage. So really, like turn of the millennium, I would pass it. I'd say before that, I would go SGC as well.
Yeah, I think you're definitely spot on there. I think, vintage and even stickers, I do think look a lot nicer in SGC with the black border. There's nothing knocking it. I've got a Saka tabloids, his rookie sticker, in a PSA. I think that looks really nice. But I've got some, like I said, my Wenger stickers from '87 and was it like 2006. Yeah, see, like it looks so much nicer in the black border. So yeah, I think as you said, I think anything vintage for me will always go SGC. I wouldn't necessarily say anything PC also goes SGC because I think there's a couple of PC items that I would love to send to PSA. But like both of us, we just don't. It's just difficult to not have the patience to wait potentially up to however many months to receive them back. So yeah, I think it's a difficult one sometimes. I guess you've got to weigh up the options as to how much you want to add value or how much you want to potentially make it worth more in the long run as opposed to keeping it protected in the PC.
Yeah, 100% do agree, and then especially the fact of PSA. The other thing I would send there is obviously tickets as well, which they probably need to do sooner rather than later. But either one are very good. Like I say, they both add value to cars. Obviously, PSA just gets the most out of it. So I think I'll probably get some bits sent off within the next fortnight, probably to both companies just to get them done. Hopefully, have the PSA one back by the next London car show and try. But I'll probably be holding it until the summer transfer window of Rafael Leao. And then the SGC stuff be straight in the case and not going anywhere at all. But lastly, obviously, we're talking about grading, which is in a very good position, especially worldwide at the moment. We're talking about the upcoming releases, which are always great. and I'm going to let you take over from this one because on Tuesday, the 14th of February, 2023, at about 2 p.m., Tops did announce something that's made you rather happy for once, and you're going to finally be able to say something which you've never been able to say on the podcast before.
Yeah, I think it happened on your birthday as well, which is quite a nice touch after the amount of time we waited for it. But yeah, Project 22, there was finally an Arsenal card that was released within the set. I remember I was at work and I know Ronnie had texted me like, Harry with a couple of letters and like an alarm emoji. I'm thinking like, oh my God, has he found the gun for signing to 5? Like, oh my God. But no, I was very pleased to see that, Arsenal had finally had their first card in Project 22, which was Martin Ødegaard. It does look a really nice card, so I'm sure I know we're both going to be ordering a couple each to see if we can hit a parallel. Obviously, along with that, they did release a little reel which did show off some more Arsenal cards that are going to be released. So, I think me and Ronnie are both pretty set on the fact that every week there should be at least one Arsenal card over the next couple of weeks. But no, yeah, I think it was a massive sigh of relief and a massive plus to finally have an Arsenal card in Project 22 after I don't know how many weeks we've waited.
It must
be in 20,
I think it might
20
be like
30 weeks, something like that now for the first Arsenal card. So yeah, it definitely made my day. I know I'm hoping it made your birthday. But yeah, it was definitely a fantastic way to end off the week of the long weekend of London Card Show to finally have an Arsenal Project 22 released. So I'll definitely be picking up an early guard, and I think we've got Fabio Vieira, Saka, and Jesus. That was it. Yeah, for us, the 3 in the reel. So yeah, it was a massive bonus to finally be relieved of all stress to finally have an Arsenal Project 22 released. So the next thing is now trying to see whether we can get a parallel or not.
Yeah, so yeah, actually it's week 31. So he's number 150. So would that be 155? So yeah, finally there. But like we say, in a way, I'm kind of happy it's later on as well because early on, a lot of people were just ordering them. So now, hopefully, don't get me wrong, the print run's still going to be quite a bit, especially having the first Arsenal.
Every Arsenal collector.
Yeah, but it should be at least reasonable. Like it should be astronomical. So, like we say, the odds of hitting the parallels is still going to be silly low anyway. But I think it's obviously got the 1 of 1 to 11 and to 22. So there's only 34 parallels. So the odds of hitting one is ridiculous. So obviously we're all going to be hoping for one of them. But yeah, like I say, that's going to be really good now that we've started seeing them coming out. Obviously, as well for people to keep eyes on, which should be coming out anytime soon. Our Tops Now returning as well with the UEFA Champions League and UEFA Europa League and UEFA Conference League all reaching their knockout stages. So should be some nice cards hitting the shelves, depending on which ones they go for, and obviously parallels which one. But like I say, there's been a few big games. Obviously, had Dortmund, Chelsea, Barcelona, Man United, Real Madrid, Liverpool's. As of this is coming out, it's a night of it coming out. So some really big ties, and I think Tops Now always produce some really nice cards. And I think now everyone's looking a bit of nostalgia back at it because you actually remember the event of when it actually happened. Whereas a normal card, you're a bit like, oh, it's a really nice card, but it hasn't got memories attached to it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think there's a lot of Tops Now cards as well that are very short print runs. I remember also when Declan Rice made his debut for the Hammers. I remember also Rodrigo making his debut in the Champions League. There's a lot of these that hold value no matter what the print run. You get them graded with PSA, you get them graded somewhere else. Like they hold a value. But I guess obviously all of that aside, it actually is quite a nice card. As you said, it remembers that moment in time that so-and-so scored their first Champions League goal. So-and-so did this. So-and-so made their Champions League debut. So Tops Now, I think, has always been a very nice release and the chance of hitting a parallel as well. Obviously, when they come through in the gold envelope. But yeah, I'm excited to see Tops Now being released. Obviously, hopefully when Europa League kicks in, we can get our Arsenal cards in Tops Now. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing the Tops Now come out, obviously from their recent Champions League games. Obviously Europa League when that kicks back in as well. So yeah, hopefully we see some big ones. Also, I know Mudryk got his signed for Chelsea Tops Now. So we'll see a couple coming through over the next week or two. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting time for cards and football. So really look forward to bringing more stuff, especially when the checklist starts to go out. We'll hopefully, if we can get a special out, we might put a special out. If not, check out YouTube, might be something on there, or even it'll be in the next episode anyway. So, like I say, thank you everyone so much for watching, listening, everything. If you are on the YouTube, please drop a follow and press like button and let us know who you think or who you want to be your team and other teams' color blasts. And this, I know I'm gonna make a note when I'm editing this. I'll make a note of who said, and then when the checklist comes out, I'll put a 0 next to all of our names because we've got nothing right. So,
I
like
mean,
I
we
say,
still need to
thanks.
review how we did for the World Cup as well.
Oh yeah, if someone wants to
We
go
were
through
so
that,
far off.
yeah, no, well off. If we got one right, I'd be happy. So,
Yeah.
but like I say, thank you everyone listening, watching along, and obviously we'll be back with you next Tuesday for the last episode of February, which will be episode 52. But thank you everyone for listening. I hope everyone out there is staying safe, being well, enjoying the hobby, and most importantly, happy hobbying and good night.